garden froze last night. It snuck right up on me. When these things thaw out, they're gonna be mush. Yep, this basil is gonna be mush. What in the world? The low was forecasted to be 40 Fahrenheit, 4 Celsius. I didn't do anything. I woke up this morning and took my kids to school, and I was, you know, I knew it was cold. We slept with our window open, so I knew it had been a cold night, but 40's cold, so I just thought, okay. I walked out front and everything's just white, covered in frost. And I'm driving down here and I look down in my car and it was 32 degrees. And like everything's covered in frost. It's like a month early. I think the stuff in the high tunnel will probably be okay, even though I didn't close it. Maybe the stuff on the edge will be a little damaged, but there wasn't a bunch of frost on the plants in there. I mean, I wasn't done harvesting. I thought I had more time. Yeah, hopefully this will all be fine. This has never happened to me before. I've never been surprised by frost in my garden. I've always been like, you know, obviously like so on watching, and I guess I kind of knew it was a possibility because getting down to 40, you know, we live in like the low point. So our farm, specifically my garden, like that side of our farm, that pasture is a lot higher than the garden. But this field, the pond, and the garden are kind of in the low point of the property. And so it sort of is a bowl, you know, like warm air rises, cool air settles into low spaces. So this does sometimes get a little colder than the rest, but you know, frost has to do with dew point and all that stuff too. That's never happened to me. I mean, I won't lose a lot that I was planning on doing anything with. I was gonna, you know, go through and like comb through and see what else I could get. I was gonna harvest more basil and stuff. Huh. I'm a little dumbfounded. See here between the tunnels, like there's no frost on these dahlias, so they'll be okay. This kind of makes a little microclimate that stays warmer when it's cold and a little cooler when it's hot. There's basil in here that's fine. That's so crazy. Well, this tomato's freezing, but it is a delight. I always say late season tomatoes are delicious. That takes late season to a whole new level. Everything in here is, or at least everything I've planted in here is able to freeze. Oh, look. The sun is coming up and melting all the frost, but I just had to go grab my camera and document the time frost snuck up on me. Huh. Had I realized, I would have come and dropped the walls on this, but it is what it is now. So what happens when frost tender plants freeze is the moisture in the plants actually expands upon freezing and then explodes the cellular walls of the plant, which frost doesn't always kill plants. And like, I may still get to harvest some of my basil. It just depends on how honestly how long it was freezing. What can happen is just the outside edges of the plant can explode, like the cellular walls, and when they freeze, they just turn to mush. They just like, they're slimy, and it's because all the cellular walls in that plant's cellular structure are broken, and that's why they're mushy. They turn really brown really fast because obviously they can't function. They can't photosynthesize. They're destroyed by the freezing. Frost hardy plants are able to essentially just withstand those temperatures without exploding. So that's why like all those brassicas and stuff, they'll be completely fine. So one thing you can do if you are ever like taken by surprise by a freeze is if you can get out to your garden before the sun touches it, you can water it, and if you put water on it, it can essentially ease the tension of those expanded liquids and keep the walls from breaking, and basically kind of like slowly thaw it all down so that the explosion doesn't happen, and therefore the plants can keep living. That's kind of an iffy thing. It does work. I've done it before. I mean, at this point, like obviously I could have run home and like tried to water those things, but to be honest, it's completely okay. Like I have for the most part harvested everything that I really wanted. I've been working on it this week, and I would be very disappointed if I lost all those peppers in the high tunnel. But like I said, I don't think that they got super frosty. So there's kind of like degrees of freezing, and it really depends like how long a plant is cold, how frosty it is. It has to do with the dew point. So like a frost will not always just wipe out the garden. Sometimes it just heavily damages it. I would guess from this, because I'm thinking it must have just barely got freezing enough to really accumulate a good frost. I would guess that like the stuff like the pumpkins that have these big leaves all on one level, those will probably turn to mush. Those big elephant ears, those mojito colocaceas and all that stuff, probably turn to mush because you got like big surfaces that can catch a lot of frost. However, like I'm hoping, so I really wanted to make one big harvest off my basil. I'm hoping that it's okay because it's a big bush, and so likely the outer leaves will have caught most of the cold and most of the frost, and those may be damaged, those may turn to mush, but the inner leaves were protected from the outer leaves, and since it wasn't a deep frost, maybe those will still be good. I don't know. It's wild. It's gonna be like 80 degrees again here. Like I think our high is like 78. What's that, like 24 Celsius like next week? So you know, South Carolina. So this is our fourth fall here. Yeah, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah. And we have consistently frozen mid-November since being here. So this is pretty surprising. October 17th. Huh. That's why frost dates are estimated, because it, you know, nobody can guarantee what's gonna happen. What do you say, Bear? You probably like it with that big fur coat you have. Good morning, goats. Hey, little boy. Hey, Winnie. Are you standing in the hay feeder? So, cutie girl. You enjoying that sunshine? You know, we really haven't had a whole lot of very cold nights. The last few nights have been down in the like mid 40s, like 5, 6-ish Celsius, like, and that's very cool. But I noticed yesterday that the goats have fluffed up a lot, that the sheep have fluffed up a lot, that the cows are starting to get their winter coats in. And I think it is so interesting that even before the weather actually demands it, the animals' bodies start getting ready. No matter if the frost is early or late, like the animals' bodies start getting ready right before it's necessary. I just think that's so cool. They don't need the forecast to tell them what to do, unlike me. Good morning, Helen. Sweet girl. The farm froze.
Yep. I can feel it.
It was hard getting out of bed this morning with that window open.
You chose it.
Jeremiah loves sleeping in the cold, but I really don't like the air conditioner running super cold, so I don't mind it as much when it's an open window. We've been leaving the window open and sleeping under our big down blanket, and we have slept really well. But it is hard to get up in the morning whenever you're toasty and warm under a down blanket. And it's apparently in the 30s. I knew
You thought it was in the 40s.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So really your mind was tricking you.
Yeah. When I drove down the driveway and saw the frost everywhere, and then I hadn't even looked at the temperature. And I looked down at the temperature and it was freezing, and I was like, oh, well dang. That's the second time in the last month we've been shocked by a forecast. Slightly misleading us.
You think we would have figured it out by now?
No. Almost 3 gallons from Helen this morning.
Yeah, the scraper broke.
Your scraper broke?
Yeah. I'll probably do this for 5 months before I think about ordering another one.
My does have been in with Wit for the last few weeks, and when I first put them with him, they were not paying him a lick of attention. They were actually way more interested in Dusty, which I was keeping him separate from them, and I wanted to breed them to Wit. Wit's the full-size Nubian buck. Dusty's the mini Nubian buck. And I will probably use Dusty at some point in the future, but this year I wanted to use Wit. And it took them a couple weeks to pay him any attention. At one point I was like, surely their instincts will kick in, right? Like at some point, but he's just a young dude. They weren't that interested. And right now they should be coming back into heat. Probably, I have to look at my calendar. I think it's in another week or so if they didn't take, but I'm pretty sure that they did. We actually witnessed them breeding multiple times within like a 2-day period. They all came into heat at the exact same time. So that's actually very convenient because that means kidding can all happen around the same time. I much prefer that because then I can kind of just be in that mode, and it will, I think that when I figured it out when they were in heat and he was showing interest, we should be kidding like end of February, which is what I was hoping for. That is cold, but here heat is more an issue. I think one of the big reasons why... What, baby? Oh, sorry.
Come on, Bertha.
Ma'am. Back with Mama. As I was saying, I think one of the reasons why we had issues with our sheep and we lost lambs this summer is it was way too late. I won't ever do lambing in the middle of the summer again. Goats typically won't. Like, they don't cycle year round. But we're gonna skip lambing this coming spring because we have enough lambs, and then we'll breed them all to give birth at the end of winter the next year. Same with goats. Like, end of February you may have to deal with some cold weather, and then you're having to, like, early on you're milking in cold weather, but not for very long. It warms up pretty well here by April. It's exciting to think about. The other thing with kidding, like whenever you kid in February, that gives your goat kids a little bit of time to get stronger and bigger before like parasite season really gears up. As it gets hotter, especially because it stays pretty wet here even when it is warm, parasites can be difficult, and especially for babies, they can struggle a little more with it. So it gives time for them to be a little more established. Hey y'all, editing Jess here. It's the next day. I just finished editing this video while I'm waiting on paint to dry. I'm working on my cabinets right now. Multitasking as usual. I realized upon editing this video that I forgot to sign off, and I did not want to miss the opportunity to say, I bless you. Until next time.